Going on to the other best team in the NFC East, Philadelphia Eagles, and what an interesting team they are. I mean, from having Foles as a starter, now a backup, now not on the team, drafting Wentz. I think the most interesting thing about the Philadelphia Eagles is and will continue to be the way they treat Carson Wentz. And that's not the fans. That's the organization. Most of what I've seen from fans is a lot of, oh, as long as he's healthy, they love him. And they know he can't control the injury stuff. And I think the fans in Philadelphia are just in love with this young quarterback that brings such dynamic playmaking that they just haven't had in a while. And it's really fun to watch. I'm a little bit biased because I watched a lot of Carson Wentz when he was in college, and the dude just gets it done. And that's the thing. They had an injury riddled team this year. 9-7. Makes the playoffs. Puts up a good fight in the playoffs. Like, you can't knock the way that Carson Wentz plays because Carson Wentz plays whether or not anybody else does. And I think the fans really do see that, but the disrespect that comes from his own team is laughable. There were reports coming out. I think it was Byron Murphy was actually on. No, it's not Byron Murphy. Anyways, one of their ex players was talking about the team after he had left, and he was saying that that locker room is split right now, and it's whether or not they should have kept Foles and put him at starter and ditched Wentz. Which, excuse me, if Foles was better, he would beat him out in training camp and every day in practice. But he doesn't, and he didn't. And people forget that Carson Wentz set them up that season to do well, set them up to the playoffs and all that. Carson Wentz got it going. Foles had a great finish. But we've seen that magic from quarterbacks. I would put it more to coaching than I would to Foles. We've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick have crazy good 4 game stretches, and it's not that much longer in the playoffs. It's not. And I think Nick Foles brought something good to the table. There are also reports coming out that when the playbook under Foles was simpler, and they tried to do more with Wentz because he can do more, but that's coaching. If that's the problem, simplify the playbook. I don't think that is the problem. I don't think there's a problem with Wentz as your quarterback, but the fact that some of his teammates, the people that he leads, think that their ex backup quarterback should still be there is just laughable. And we saw what happened. I mean, he got hurt, but when he was the game he played wasn't impressive. He's healthy. They still don't put him in, then they trade him so that there can be competition in Chicago. Not so he can take the job from Mitch Trubisky, who is I'm not a fan of, so he can compete with him. You want that guy starting over Carson Wentz? I wouldn't. And the second level of disrespect comes in this year's NFL draft in Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not saying it's the worst pick I've ever seen. I've seen worse, but what I am saying is instead of fortifying your offensive line, getting him more threats, helping out the defense, all these holes that the Eagles really did have and still do have, instead of doing those things, you draft Jalen Hurts, quarterback. And probably my least favorite argument for this is when people come with, well, Carson's always hurt. They need somebody to come in and win those 4 games when Carson's down. Cool. I agree. Wentz has had some issues, so you do have to have a great backup quarterback. You get Andy Dalton, Brian Hoyer, James Winston. I think that would have been good. Those guys can win you 4 or 5 games. They can. They can come in and do that for you. Jalen Hurts is not ready to see the field, and he won't be for maybe another year and a half. So you don't draft a project backup quarterback. That's just not what you do. I like the way that the 49ers seem to play it with as far as Jimmy Garoppolo goes. where, oh, shoot, Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. Not that we're going to tank, but, we're not going to go sign the best guy off of free agency. We don't have Jimmy G. We're not winning the Super Bowl. That's just how it is. And they got Jimmy G's injury led to them getting Nick Bosa. Not a bad way to look at it. Not a bad way to look at it. But taking Jalen Hurts there, they took him so they can trade Carson Wentz with a couple of years left on Wentz's deal. They did. You can't convince me different. Because why else? You don't need a young backup quarterback. And if Wentz goes down, then you got to find somebody else young. But backup quarterbacks are best suited as free agents. So this was not a backup quarterback situation. This was, we're going to trade Wentz in a couple of years. Let's see if this kid is. And if he's not, then they won't trade Wentz. Maybe he is a career backup. We still have to see what's going to happen with Hurts. But that was such a slap in the face. And people are like, oh, well, they didn't sign him just to trade him. Well, they said that about Odell. They might have signed him just to trade him halfway through. Aaron Rodgers might ask to be released halfway through. Contracts are contracts, but they're not that unbreakable. And I think it was really disrespectful to take Jalen Hurts when the backup quarterback market this year was the best it's ever been, by far. And there were just better ways to go about that than disrespecting your franchise quarterback, because that's what Wentz is. The fans love him. Maybe the front office, not so much. But he does have a lack of help, and an injury-riddled Philadelphia Eagles could have used some depth at not the quarterback position. Andy Dalton signed for only $7 million. That's not that much when it comes to NFL players. James Winston is getting like $1 million, and I know he wanted to go to New Orleans, but this could have been a good situation for him in Philly. Could have. But they took Jalen Hurts, and Carson Wentz will never say a bad thing about it. He won't. That's just not who he is. If you have him on any social media, you know that. He's not going to say a bad word about it. But he can't be happy. He knows that, he's probably getting traded in the next couple of years unless he brings home a Super Bowl. And how's he supposed to bring home a Super Bowl without all the help? Now, they did help him out a little bit. They brought in Jalen Reagor in the first round, and they took Marquise Goodwin. But is it enough for, maybe needs a little more traction? I'm not saying that every draft pick has to be there to help your young quarterback succeed, because they should be able to succeed with what you have. But there were better options in the second round. Josh Jones was still there and would have still been there for a while. Great player. Would have loved the pick. But that's not where they went, and I think it's a little telltale of the Eagles. Now, their defense is interesting. They did get Byron Jones. They have a really nice middle linebacker who I believe the stat was, for everybody that did over 120 snaps, he didn't miss a tackle. So he's number one. Didn't miss a tackle. I mean, I like where that defense is going. It was already okay. It was already well coached. I won't say it was already a great defense. It was already a well coached defense. And they got some young guys coming up and doing some pretty nice stuff. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm expecting to win the division almost every year. I feel like the Cowboys getting their head a little too much. They got some other things going on defense. But they're the best team in this division right now. They are the best team and will probably continue to be the best team until something happens until something drastic changes in the Cowboys defense, or I could see the Giants hopping up. It's some of those late round picks keep hitting. I could see it. But as far as right now, the Eagles are the best team of the NFC East and will continue to be. I have them. I see them as a 10-win team, like not a surefire, but I'd be surprised if they didn't hit 9 or 10. Very, very surprised. And on the upside there, I see 13-14. I mean, come on. Wentz won 9 with no help. I could see 3 more with the help that he now has. And, well, it's going to come down to injuries. Every team comes down to injuries. Whoever has less injuries between the Cowboys and the Eagles is going to take the division. And that'll probably be true for the next 2 years. So, yeah, good team. Disrespecting Wentz. 9-11 wins. Just similar to the Cowboys, like I said. Injuries are going to determine it.